good evening, dear colleagues, dear partners, dear friends, everyone who gathered here today. Thank you very much, first of all, to the organizers of this conference for bringing us here today for a very needed and honest discussion. And thank you to all of our Estonian colleagues for the invitation, for the cooperation, and for openness throughout the whole process of our cooperation in the project. From the very beginning, to us, this collaboration was not only about sharing expertise, it was much more about learning. And I want to say very openly, for us in Lithuania, we have been concentrating on a learning position here. Estonia has moved much faster and further in addressing questions of AI governance, digital public services, and the risks that come with them, the risks for human rights. That experience has been extremely valuable to us. After listening to the speech of my dear colleague and friend, Christian Veske, with this focus on a broader political, legal, and historical context of AI, I want to go back to a little bit more grounded level. Because for us, as equality bodies, the conversation about AI is a conversation about humans. So in our work, we think about how humans are affected in everyday life, often quietly and invisibly. In our work in Lithuania, we have already dealt with a few cases of discrimination where the decisions were based on automated decision-making systems or algorithmic processes, which were not questioned enough by the employees that were supposed to make the final decision. And I would like to share just two of the examples today. One case involved identity verification using facial recognition. A financial service provider required customers to complete identification by using a camera, that we do quite often now, positioning their face with a specific on-screen frame. And for a blind person, it was impossible to do so independently because the system, the app that was developed, did not have accessibility requirements, no audio, guidance, nothing. So evidently, what meant for the person that they lost autonomy and privacy in order to access a very basic financial service. The system noticed another person in frame that tried to help the applicant that addressed their complaint to us. And then the system terminated the account and continued to do so even after contacting customer support. So basically, the system worked very effectively here and exactly as designed, following safety and privacy rules. So effectiveness was not a question here, but it was not designed with everyone in mind. In another case, telecommunication company refused to sell a mobile phone, giving credit to an older woman. After a long investigation, we figured out that there were no other risks in place other than the decision made by an automated decision-making system used by an employee to evaluate the risk, taking the credit risk evaluation. And the sole or the majorly evaluated company within the risk was age of the person. Even though the system had all the information about the previous credit scores and other evaluations, the major component evaluated was age. So this and other examples, and many other examples, affecting many more people, sometimes thousands of individuals, in cases of Netherlands, for example, made one thing very clear to us. AI-related discrimination is not something in the far future, it's a very much present reality. What makes this situation particularly difficult is that discrimination often does not look very hostile or intentional. On the contrary, it looks neutral because the decisions were made by the system, not by a person using the system. So not by humans with their bias, but we know already for a few years that systems can be biased too and can use the injustices that happened before and learn from them. It seems that when decisions are framed as automated, responsibility for those decisions becomes very blurred and dispersed. And my personal concern here is simple. is this how inequality then becomes very normalized in everyday life. That is why, for equality in institutions, AI somewhat ironically raises deeply human questions. Who is being left out by default? And secondly, who bears the burden of adapting? The system or the person, the individual meaning? And perhaps most importantly, who is expected then to notice when something goes wrong? And is the legal system ready to adapt to this dispersed responsibility at different levels of developing automated decision-making systems, using them? And one important lesson from our joint work with Estonian colleagues is that fairness cannot be added at the end of the process. It cannot be included once harm has already begun. The diversity has to be taken into consideration at all levels of development, even thinking about who develops the system. So equality has to be part of how the problems are defined, how systems are designed, and how they are used in practice. And that requires much more than technical expertise. It requires listening, it requires empathy, it requires taking into consideration various human experiences, and willingness to accept that not everything that can be automated should be. So as we open this conference today, I would like to encourage us to keep one perspective at the very center of our discussions, and to keep doing that after the conference. Not just the algorithm, not just the law, but also the person. A person who is trying to access a service, especially a service developed by a state. The person who is being assessed, categorized, or filtered. The person whose experience may be shaped by code, data, on automated decision, sometimes in ways that it will never fully see or understand. If we take that perspective seriously, then conversation about AI and equality become less abstract and much more real, among the discussions, of course, how to increase the efficiency. And I very much look forward to learning from the discussions today and tomorrow. Thank you for the opportunity.